It was the moment in our history when everything changed. When young soldiers who joined the fight to preserve the Union would fight the battle to end slavery. When a whole race of people would force the issue of freedom upon a president who wanted to ignore it. When victorious Southern soldiers fighting a gentleman's war would see the conflict turn in a single day to a war they couldn't win.
Whether the soldier fighting in the Battle of Antietam was fighting to end slavery or not, he was the instrument of change.
The shock waves that rippled from Antietam Creek in September 1862 would be felt throughout the world and carry through the rest of the Civil War. And they are with us still.
Issuing his Emancipation Proclamation immediately after this battle, Lincoln put a second war aim into play. Rather than the mere preservation of the Union, it's now going to be a war to free American slaves.
It is that proclamation that really changes the whole focus of the war and the whole way that American society is going to develop after this war.
It was like we had opened Pandora's box with the Battle of Antietam, and we were never going to close it again because it becomes so ferocious, so violent, so huge that it's beyond anything they've experienced before.
Antietam is social history. It's the experiences of ordinary men and women caught up in extraordinary events, the foot soldiers and junior officers of both armies. They change what we know and feel about the American Civil War.
I, for one, am for giving no quarter and taking prisoners.
Lieutenant Theodore Fogle, 2nd Georgia Volunteers.
They are making war on our women and children, and why?
As the war progresses, he becomes more and more angry at the way the North is fighting the war.
He now views these northern people as an evil race. If we can understand this anger and the passions that they bring out in a man, then we can see why the fighting here could be so savage and so intense.
Captain Alan Zacharias, 7th Michigan Regiment.
Dear Mrs. Tanner, it is with deep regret that I write to inform you of the death of your son, Michael, at a place called
Captain Zacharias is the essence of the Army, the volunteer soldier who goes in to suppress the rebellion.
I'm sorry to tell you that your husband, Martin, is missing and does not appear on the list. Corporal Churchill was killed while encouraging your son, John Malone, who died last night of malaria at Harrison.
Imagine yourself as one of these Union soldiers and the feelings that their lives have been wasted on the battlefield by poor leadership and by the meddling of politicians in Washington.
What war is all about has been brought home to them with forceful reality.
Your parents, I am wounded, mortally, I think.
The Officer Corps, 4th North Carolina Volunteers.
Now I want to confirm the rank order should anything happen to me. Captain Latham, you are now senior captain.
As he stands there in front of his men and works out in detail the line of succession, who's going to take his place when he's killed, it's almost like he's writing his own will, his own last testament.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
To become the head of the regiment is almost to sacrifice your life for your cause, and the men expect that.
Captain Latham!
Corporal George Eggleston and Private Francis Delaglees, 6th Wisconsin Infantry.
George, I don't want to die in this one!
It's like systematic killing. It was such a shocking experience for them to see killing on that scale.
I don't want to die in this one! Get it away! Let's up and load! Load up!
You have some men who are terrified.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at our hour of death.
Wounded men limping or crawling or being carried away. Just complete confusion, pandemonium.
Loosen up for a minute or two every 15 minutes. Right. Got it? 15 minutes, right. Wait. Try don't pass out. Don't pass out. You do, you're going to die. You hear me? I'll be back. I'll be back. Corporal, leave him. All right. I'll be back. Forward you go. Forward. Forward.
the Perry brothers and the color guard of the 1st Texas Volunteers.
You're seeing your friends to your right and left that are going down and crying and screaming in pain and agony.
Cousin, where you hit? Get back to the company.
These men who are falling on either side of you are not just names in a book. These are people that you grew up with, who know each other so intimately, who come from the same small community, whose parents know each other so well.
There ain't no company. They're all gone.
Captain William Parker, commanding Parker's Virginia Battery.
Imagine the instincts these men had to overcome. Here, all of the artillery fire from these big guns is coming in from the direction of the Antietam. They cannot return the fire. Instead, they have to keep their focus straight ahead where the infantry fight is taking place. And you're on this exposed ridge. There's no place to run. There's no place to hide.
Lieutenant, if I'm killed here, you tell my wife I've never been happier in my entire life. Yes, sir.
Antietam is the story of schoolboys, barely 1 week in the Army and under fire for the first time. Of the nurses who went where they were needed and found themselves under fire. And the photographers. What they find and photograph changes the way the public will think of warfare forever.
Come on, we gotta get to the colors. Man caught it! Way to go, Doc!
Yeah, look good.
Good seeing, man. Good seeing.
It's awesome. You can't describe it. It's indescribable. I mean, words fail me. These men, these are who I'm proud of. It couldn't happen without them. When people are trying to portray how it truly was, to show people what it was really like, this is it, and they're doing it for history.
By this point, you should be abreast of them. They're going to slow down anyway.
To document this yet untold story, the producers took a completely new approach to historical filmmaking.
It's a definitive film on Antietam in a way that no battle has ever been done before. You have experts right on the field who are talking about what happened right where they are. You have vignettes that are done by reenactors. You have professional actors who are doing scenes. You have the maps that you have in more formal presentations. You have the old photographs. You have all the things that have been used in different pieces in different films, but no one's ever put it together as a complete mosaic, as a complete whole like this has been done before.
The 2nd Maryland Infantry is moving up this road in columns of 4s toward the bridge.
The filmmakers use interviews with experts in an entirely new way. Historians work in teams, 2 to each side.
Along this very route that we're walking, we're coming right along
the most important part of filming this the way that we do and using us the way that we are is that we're taken to an area of the battlefield. And I want to underscore the battlefield.
Mark?
And so we go there and we set a scene up. And then Scott and I sort of react to that.
At dawn on the 17th, as the sun was beginning to rise, it became...
You're there at the very time that battle opened, that event occurred, at the very place that it happened.
Where you've got him, and your blood's up so much. It's also the sort of thing that provokes you to express things that you would never do sitting in a quiet study. It was murder. And it was murder them before they can murder you. Looks like you're there. You, the viewer, are with Tom and I as we walk the Battle of Antietam.
So that they could get a clear shot at the retreating Confederates.
Can you imagine what it must have been like on that morning when the Confederates were down in this particular section of the Bloody Lane?
Well, the Alabamians were settling down to the grim business of dealing out death as fast as they could to the Federals across the way. When you're standing in the Bloody Lane, talking about what happened there, it's almost as though you can feel it yourself. That gives an element of drama to what we have to say as experts.
Essentially, there was no place for them to go. They were almost trapped in this particular sector.
Men were killed next to their friends, next to the men who worked in the same companies. The cannon fire was roaring into here. The smell of death was in the air. This is why this place is called the Bloody Lane. It is not one-dimensional. It is multi-dimensional. To make you feel like you were there to understand what it smelled like, what it sounded like, what it was really like.
See anything through all that? Oh no, can you? No? Get out, get out. God! My God! What's that? Christ! My God, where is he? Get it! He's gone! He's gone! You alright? I think so. Stay low, stay low. How long are we gonna stay here and take all this? No! Now! Go! Go! Go, go!
1, 2, 6.
An army of volunteers and living history impressionists create a variety of scenes to tell the full story of the Maryland campaign of September 1862. Sets and props were constructed to create the historical settings of Boonesboro and Frederick, Maryland.
See how the letters are faded out down at the bottom?
Yeah.
And look at the S.
Want y'all to warm up the water now?
These Confederates once again ford the Potomac River and fight their way through an authentic period cornfield on the actual Miller Farm at Antietam.
A 19th century cornfield would have been planted in a check row pattern. That is, if you can imagine a checkerboard, you plant at the intersection of the lines.
This would have been corn at the time of the engagement. So what you're going to get is the look that really is exactly needed to provide an authentic backdrop.
The same buildings that served as field hospitals in 1862 again overflow with wounded. Full batteries of horse artillery thunder across the Maryland countryside. Historical settings are recreated in exacting detail. Federal cannon overwhelm these artillery at the Dunker Church. Confederate soldiers defend the actual sunken road. And Union troops once again assault Burnside's bridge.
It's amazing, and I don't think that there's a film crew anyplace else that I would trust to the level that I trust the people who made this movie.
Action!
I don't think that this battle differed from Iwo Jima or Normandy. This was a battle where both sides were attempting to kill each other.
Forward, for God's sake, double quick time!
I've seen every Civil War film that's ever been made. I've yet to see one better than this.
One day.
Put on the war paint!
One place.
Gotta get out of here!
One battle.